today's session will begin with a conversation with Kramlich, channel partner at Angelneers. That's a very interesting name. So, Cameron, welcome to the show, and we look forward to getting to know you.
Thank you.
Cameron, what is your background? I'm looking at Angelneers, and I'm reading angels, and I'm reading engineers, which is what your intent, I'm sure. Is that your background?
You know, my background is as an entrepreneur and as an investor. I've had a series of startups, which some have done well, some haven't. Have sold to big tech companies, have sold to private equity. As an investor, my first investment was almost 20 years ago. I'm part of funds that raised over $1 billion. And so my investing focus and ours at a fund is really around identifying high potential entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial teams where we can uniquely create value as both operators and investors.
And how big is Angelneers? How big is the fund?
I have no idea. And that's really the most honest answer any investor can tell you. I can tell you how much money we've raised. I can tell you how much we've deployed. I can tell you what we think our mark-to-market value portfolio is. But really, the way that we view our fund size is on a company-by-company, deal-by-deal basis. The way that we operate, we look at startups, we look at teams, we put together, a whole.
But you're not operating out of a fund?
No, we have a fund, but it's something where it's not the right metric to use for us, because the way that we work is we build teams and we put money into companies, but we also put people in and they work for sweat equity. And the sweat equity model is something where they earn some equity, we earn some equity, and we use that as a catalyst so that when we deploy capital, we have a higher return and lower risk. And so basically, it's a different model than a traditional, we raise $100 million from limited partners, put it into 5 deals. We have a fund, but it's not the right metric.
So what check size do you write, and what stage do you start engaging in?
We do everything from, 2 people at a coffee shop with a napkin to, being in a $10, $20 million Series A. And then, of course, follow-on investments. But we really feel that the unique value that we add is by putting together teams and helping the teams be better. So oftentimes we'll look at a team and we'll have, a brilliant MBA and a designer, and they really need a good CTO. Or we'll find a brilliant CTO who, went to grad school with a great designer, and they need to have somebody who can actually figure out how to have a revenue model. And, I think that there's this guy called Tolstoy, and he said that all happy families are alike. Each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. And startup families are a lot like that and behave almost identically. And so what we do is we try to create happy families and happy startups by, identifying what the weaknesses are, what the strengths are, and help them, go from idea to product market fit and scale by being a happier family with a more balanced team.
So what do you need to see in the beginning of a team, whether it's that CTO that you want to build a business side around, or a business founder that you want to build a technical team around? What do you need to see? What do you like to see for you to start making those investments?
Sure. So basically, we like to see people who identify a problem, like a real big problem that lots of people have or lots of enterprises have. And once they've identified a problem, they put together a solution. And oftentimes we help people, who look at a problem. And so many times when entrepreneurs pitch us, they'll be like, this is $1 trillion industry. And maybe it is. But oftentimes it's not the $1 trillion industries that are the most exciting, or the ones that you can address first. But it is one aspect of that $1 trillion industry where there's a huge amount of pain for somebody who will pay for it. And so we look at that problem, that solution, and then the team. And the team has to have the right skills to actually credibly be able to build that solution to the problem. And so, kind of we look for, problem, solution, team. Is a team perfect? Almost no team ever is. And we like more Steph Curry teams than LeBron James teams. We want to build a team where people pass to each other, where where things are balanced, and so it's not relying on one rock star, but or one diva, but on a whole bunch of world-class athletes who can work together to create mutual value.
Let's do some case studies. You pick your favorite companies that have come together in this fashion that you're talking about, and tell us some stories of, what did they start with? When they came to you, what did they have? What did you see in those companies that, prompted you to get involved fully? So let's do maybe 3 of those case studies.
Sure. So, one company that we're super excited about is Cycle, which is a container management platform based here in Reno. And there we have a unbelievably gifted serial entrepreneur who's the CEO, and he's done an incredible job building a great business with incredible metrics. Can't say enough great things about him. But you look at it, and we're helping him build out his team, and that means looking at how to build a better sales organization. What does it mean to hire more technical people when you have a pretty small startup? And there's the both technical debt that you've already accrued, but there's also how do you put together a team so that you can have more features added, more stability, and it's something where with this particular company they've done an incredible job, but we're helping them figure out how to grow their team and how to basically be happier so they can scale better and help their customers be happier. And as they help their customers be happier.
And how did they come to you? How did the connection with you happen?
What do you mean?
How did you find this company, or how did this company find you?
There is a very part of our team, part of our organizational culture is we're always traveling constantly. I'm in Nevada right now, spent a lot of time in Silicon Valley. Oleg is, I think, in Turkey. And we're constantly going all over the world. We see part of our focus as, we call it a mullet strategy, where we think that it's great to have a Silicon Valley footprint, but for a lot of roles, it's not necessary and maybe not even ideal to have the whole team be in one place. It's a lot less risky if everybody's geographically distributed. And as a result, we are looking at companies that can use that sort of Silicon Valley secret sauce that allows for fast growth and great exits and great valuations, but at the same time might be based in a place like Chennai or Kerala or Ohio or Hawaii or Zurich, and or whatever. We have a lot of companies we've worked with in Eastern Europe, a lot in East Asia, and what sort of makes all these companies, similar is that we can help them build out their team and have a geographical footprint in Silicon Valley, and get Silicon Valley customers and understand what it means to be a Silicon Valley startup without having the whole team there. And so, the way that we met this particular company was at a event for entrepreneurs here in Reno, and we started talking like, oh, you're doing this, you have a bunch of great people on your team, great investors behind you. There are 3 people who started unicorns who are also investors with us. We're bigger than most of them are because we're fun and not angels. But it's something where every time we see an opportunity, it's a little bit different. But it's all about trying to figure out where we can add value. And so that's how they came to us.
So I think you kind of started addressing one of my questions I was going to ask you later, is the geographical boundary of your work or extent of your work. So you are operating globally, you're saying, yeah?
We operate globally, but there always needs to be a sort of US or Silicon Valley component. I live in Verdi, Nevada, which is near Reno, and split my time between here and San Francisco. As things open up, I tend to spend about a quarter of my time in China. But right now, for all sorts of reasons, that's not happening. My partners, we actually had one of our partners based in the Ukraine. He's now in Spain. And we have people we work with in Thailand, in, San Jose, in Atherton. Our team is globally distributed, and we like to call it mullet strategy, as I mentioned earlier.
So you are going for a global strategy. Interesting. Um, so let's go back to maybe doing another couple of examples of companies that you have invested in that kind of illustrate how you like to work.
Sure. Um, and the other thing about us is, although most of our companies tend to be enterprise software, we like big problems, big solutions, and great teams. And so as a result, we are also, we're not just geography agnostic, but we're also vertical agnostic. Um, one of my great success stories is actually, as an investor, has been a retailer in Alaska, where they had a great problem. The problem they identified was you can't buy great stuff in small towns at a
Mm-hmm.
reasonable price. They figured out how to do it with a really unique business model, which was to go to Costco, buy stuff, and then sell it in these small towns. And then they've built a massive business with doing hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue. Basically going to Costco, putting stuff on a credit card, filling up a semi truck, bringing it to a small town, and in there, when first identified the opportunity, the issue was both financial. They needed money, but also they needed to build out a team. They had a great legendary entrepreneur, but they needed help with legal stuff and accounting and marketing and finding an accountant and all the stuff that you need to scale. And so part of the value that I brought to the table was in helping the company add the infrastructure needed to scale. And that's basically, though that deal pre-exists Angelneers, it's very similar strategies that we have with all of our companies, which is, we basically hey, you have a great problem, great solution, you build the team, you fill out the team, and things scale. And if they don't scale, we figure out why. And usually and, and this gets me, but usually it's because people are too afraid to spend money. And people are like, hey, Cameron, I took your money. I don't want to lower prices, or I don't want to increase our burn a little bit, or, we're breaking even. But, the answer, and sometimes that's true, but oftentimes is that it's better to lower prices or to add that extra headcount, so growth can be faster, and fixed costs can be overcome, which ultimately leads to more profitable businesses.
So you started answering another question I was going to ask you, which is a sector question. You said you invest mostly in enterprise software. Could you please elaborate a bit more about what is your enterprise software investment thesis, even though you just gave an example of a retail e-commerce kind of company? But let's talk about your enterprise software strategy, which sounds like is your core strategy.
Sure. So our core strategy has to do with the shape of our team, and our deepest background is in software. And so, software as a sector is quite complicated because, you have everything from platform plays to applications to, application enablement platforms, et cetera. And so, when you look at our team, we have a whole bunch of experts who've been part of companies of all sizes. And we'll look at a company that needs a good CMO. We'll take somebody who'd been a public company CMO who is looking for a new project for a couple months, and we'll put her in that job. Or we'll look at a company that has a great problem and solution, but needs either to hire a CTO, or it needs somebody who, as an engineer, can manage. And the thing about engineering is it's quite different between having somebody who can write amazing software versus somebody who can manage a bunch of really smart people who can write amazing software. And oftentimes when we look at startups, we'll find brilliant core team with 2 or 3 developers, none of whom are good people managers. And we'll put them together with somebody who's also a great developer, but might be a better people manager. And by having better management, the team can go from 3 people to 30, without hitting the wall that a lot of startups hit. And so, again, part of our core strategy is to build better teams. And by having better teams, they're more likely to be successful. And we align our interests with those of the entrepreneurs.
So it's not, you don't have any sector-specific investment thesis, basically. Within enterprise software, you do all blends of enterprise software.
We have portfolio companies in a bunch of different enterprise software verticals. But we don't just say that we do accounting software or something like that. We our focus is more on team and opportunities and solutions, and as a result, we don't have a specific vertical focus because we don't think that's where we can add unique value. I mean, there's some
And
firms where you look at and the partners, worked at Databricks and Square and five other enterprise software companies, and all they should do is enterprise software, and that's just not us because we're not that. We're focused on building great teams.
and what so you've said over and over again, team is your core USP. How do you manage this kind of recruitment? Do you work with recruiters? Do you have your own recruiting partner? What's the strategy for team building? This is not an easy thing to do.
It's not an easy thing to do, but part of why we're Angelneers is we're angels and engineers. But engineers, we use that kind of loosely. I mean, we're really angels and product builders, and as part of our team, we've built companies that have had something like $100 billion of exits, and we have this deep network in Silicon Valley of you know everybody from public company CEOs to interns, and we know these people personally. And because we know these people personally, we get to know entrepreneurs. We figure out what are their needs and who, of our friends can we add to their team to help them be helpful, to help them be more successful. And you know, is it one specific way that we find people? No, but it's something where I've been in the industry for almost a quarter century, and I'm the youngest guy on the team. Not the youngest, I'm one of the youngest people on the team, but I've been in the industry almost 25 years. And so I know all these people. And, for one deal, do you want somebody who worked at Project X? Or do you want somebody who has deep experience in Fusion? Or do you want somebody who's been a marketer at crypto platform? I know each of those three people, and hundreds more. And so our role is really in being boundary spanners and connectors and helping put together these great teams. And it's not through any one strategy. We're working with a specific recruiting company, although of course we're open to talking to recruiters, that we do this. But that's every team's unique and every person's unique, and we try to help people find the right project that will make them happy.
Okay. So my next question is, are you looking for unicorns?
Are we looking for unicorns? It goes back to our strategy, which is we like to be super early to a point where we can help the company make critical hires. And of course, we want every startup that we invest in have $1 billion exit. But do we want to have the company have $1 billion valuation on day one? No, they shouldn't. One of the
No, that's not my question.
The whole Silicon.
That's not the question.
Sorry.
I'm not asking. That's kind of a daft question, actually. But the question that I'm asking is, are you looking to invest in early stage companies that have the potential to become unicorns? And I'll qualify that question with some more color. There is a class of investors that are coming together, especially those who acknowledge the fact that there is a lot of exits that happen that are not unicorn exits, but there is money to be made in non-unicorn businesses as well. So that was my question, is that are you squarely focused on the unicorn companies or unicorn potential companies, or are you also looking at these, smaller TAM, but real problems where people are willing to spend a lot of money and there are, potential exits for that as well?
Look, there's this myth in Silicon Valley that every company IPOs or fails. The majority of startups are trade sales, where you have a team of people put together, hit milestones, and someone else acquires them. Do we want to create a whole flock of unicorns? Of course we do, but or whole herd of unicorns. But that's not our focus. Specifically, our focus is in building great teams and making money for limited partners. And we can do that with $500 million, $100 million exit. Now we don't want to, we don't want to put $100,000 and help someone open up a pizza restaurant they sell for $1 million. It's not worth their time. But no, absolutely, we are looking at companies that might not potentially have $1 billion exit, but if you get below about $100 million exit, it's really hard for us to get over our own frictional costs. $100 million potential exit to get over our own frictional costs to make it worth our time. And so, are we looking at companies that couldn't have $1 billion exit? Sure, but there does have to be a certain scale for a model to work.
Interesting. I'll give you a bit of my comments based on, because we see a lot of investors and their investment thesis, and we see a lot of entrepreneurs and their problems and their needs and so forth. So one thing that I really like about what you're saying is, there's a tremendous bias in the industry against solo entrepreneurs. But the truth is, a vast majority of entrepreneurs actually start solo. Along the way, they build teams and build products and get further. But, even in entrepreneurs like the founder of ServiceNow, Fred Luddy, started as a solo entrepreneur. So I don't believe that solo entrepreneurship doesn't work. We believe that solo entrepreneurship does work. Of course, you have to bring in all the other skills and resources around you, but you can do it step by step. So the fact that you're saying that you are open to working with solo entrepreneurs and then build the team around them to fill out the gaps in their expertise is actually a very interesting angle. And I think it's an angle that is underserved in the industry, because everybody wants fully ready, camera-ready teams to invest in. They want the product side, the technology side, everything coming together, the product market fit already done, and then they're willing to write checks. Even in pre-seed, people are looking for at least 2 co-founders before they're willing to write checks. So in that sense, your angle, I think, is an interesting angle to address a category of entrepreneurs who are not working as duos or trios. They're working as solo entrepreneurs, and they will need to fill out the rest of the team.
No, absolutely. And here's the thing. Look, and this is the first time we've talked, but you look at it, and few people are solo entrepreneurs, but also even fewer people go to Stanford. And Stanford's a great school, don't get me wrong, but there are lots of other great schools out there, and you might not meet your founding team in undergrad or grad school, and they might not be at your church or synagogue or whatever. And part of what makes our unique model work is we love people who want to build out teams, and we build out teams for them. And we have that social network that entrepreneurs might have or might not have, and that's great. So I agree with you 100%. And, a lot of the greatest entrepreneurs were solo entrepreneurs. You look at people like Sam Walton, you look at, people like Larry Ellison, who had a Bob Miner, but was it Bob Miner or was it Larry Ellison? Was it Steve Wozniak? Was it Steve Jobs? And how did they meet? And, Steve Jobs was an entrepreneur from a very early age. It wasn't until he worked at Atari where he met Steve Wozniak. And it might be that what somebody who's a gifted entrepreneur like Steve Jobs really needs is to partner with a firm like Angelneers, where we can help them find their Steve Wozniak and Mike Markkula and the whole, both technical and human stack of tools that they need to make their dreams happen.
Do you invest in concept stage ventures?
What do you mean?
Like, let's say a solo entrepreneur came to you with a good market analysis that they have, figured out that there is a market opportunity. Maybe they have domain knowledge and so forth, but they haven't built anything yet. Would you invest in that?
No.
No.
But that's because rarely has somebody who has that type of proposal, have they done enough work? Do they have enough data? Having somebody goes to Startup Weekend and has a Magic 8 Ball company, that's likely not to be the right thing that's likely to be successful. Here's the thing. Early on in my career, I was part of the startup, which actually ended up working out quite well. But we had a business model and a great team. We pitched it to our venture capitalists invested in us. And then the more data we got, the more I realized what we were doing was crazy and made no sense at all. And so we had this really stressful board meeting, talked to them like, hey, we need to change these 15 things about our strategy. And they all said, hey, Cameron, like, you couldn't tell that? Like, why did you waste your time in the first place? You didn't, this wasn't obvious. Like, we invested in you. We like you. We think you're really close to it. But yes, what you were doing before was dumb. And the changes you're proposing make a ton of sense. And so when you say, are we going to invest in somebody with a PowerPoint deck and 10 slides? No, and no one really should. But are we going to invest in people who we see incredible talent? They've identified a great problem and solution, and we can help them build out our team? Absolutely. And so does that answer your question?
Well, it does answer my question in the sense that, but you're saying two things, right? You're saying that you would invest in somebody who is great talent, who is a great talent and has great domain knowledge, if that person is investing, is proposing something in that domain where the problem is identified and this person shows deep understanding of the problem. So, but isn't that a concept stage investment in a very talented person?
Sure, it would be. For us, it's more about having a growth mindset and looking at somebody who has a general area they want to work in, but also has enough neuroplasticity to be willing to realize that whatever is on a pitch deck is going to change 15 times, and every pitch deck you ever see is always constantly changing. And so, that's why if it's just a 10 slide, the basic pitch deck, that's great, but it needs to be more than that, but not necessarily much more. And what we're looking for is people that we can coach and help grow, and that's more than like for a lot of companies that we invest in, they might not even have a pitch deck. We're like, hey, we like you, we think you're smart, and you've done a great job during your time at Oracle or whatever, or you've done a great job at your time at Walmart.com. And we see potential in you, and here's how we can help you figure out the problem you want to solve, build out a team, and find a lot more success and happiness. And ultimately, we're about creating happy companies and happy entrepreneurs, and that we think leads to happy investors.
See, the reason I'm probing this point, Cameron, is that there is this whole category of enterprise software entrepreneurs who are solving deep tech problems, right? Mm-hmm. And deep tech problems are not easy to cobble together a product. You need money to hire engineers and pull together products. So they don't operate so well as lean startups. These are kind of fat startups. And at the same time, in AI, especially in IoT, there are a lot of opportunities, and there's a lot of talents. There's a lot of people who understand problems deeply. I mean, if you take an esoteric vertical with esoteric workflow and esoteric opportunities for applying AI to that problem, and if you find a domain expert who really deeply understands that, you still have to build a team around that person to actually get a product out. It'll probably take 9 months to 18 months to get the product out. And that's the only way that person can raise money is with a concept stage and based on his or her own resume. That's the only kind of financing possible in that scenario.
No, I totally understand. Those people probably aren't the right fit for us. It's something where, the analogy that I would use is we're super excited about Fusion, but for our model to work, it will be people that use Fusion to have new applications, as opposed to people that need to raise a $2 billion, $5 billion, $10 billion Series A to build the Fusion power plant. And so, for people who want to talk to KKR and TPG and
I don't
Goldman Sachs, they can do that. But that's
to do a Series A. People, what we're not talking about $2 billion. We're talking about $2 million.
Well, and to do deep tech or a real AI deal, I think $2 million is really just not enough money. Maybe $20 million, but it just, for that type of
people
team.
People don't do $20 million pre-seed deals, Cameron. I just don't see that happening much.
Sorry?
I just don't see $20 million pre-seed deals happening. I think people are doing it on milestone basis and, you know.
No, precisely. And that was my point. It's that there are different size deals that work for us and different size deals that work for other people. We're early stage fund. And so, if you're looking at something where you have to have 20 people and feed them for 18 months, that's one type of company. If you're looking at something where you have an enterprise software product that, you need two marketers and a couple engineers to have something you can sell to, Logitech, that's a different type of company. And so,
Yeah. So
when
your preference is still somewhat lean companies, is what I'm gathering, where you can get some amount of validation early on with a small amount of money.
Correct, because we see our key unique value proposition in terms of building these teams out. And so if we join too late, there are too many people there, we can't influence the culture. And if we work with a company where things have to be too heavy, it just our model doesn't work.
I got it. I think I understand what your sweet spot is. You are okay with solo entrepreneurs, but you want to see some amount of validation. You want to see a talented anchor founder around whom team can be built, but there is validation already in the company. That's your sweet spot in enterprise software.
Correct.
All right. Terrific. Well, very nice to know you, and look forward to doing some work with you.
Nice to talk to you again. You have a great day.
Thank you.
Be well. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.